Welcome back to the Burstmo Music Marketing Podcast. Today we're talking about something which I've seen for years and years in the industry working with artists, and that's professionalism, both the way you act and also what you do. So why do we need to be professional?
I think a lot of artists see that music, I don't know, being a musician you don't need to be professional because, I mean, that's for the business side of things.
Roll,
yeah.
right? Sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Yeah, but I think there's a stage where you just take it too far. And I think not being professional with the right people can actually have really a bad impact on your career. We've seen it firsthand with people that have done things that haven't been professional, and it's ruined contacts. It's meant that they haven't got to the level they wanted to.
I think they think it's advantageous to be unprofessional. It's cool, and musicians have to be cool. And this kind of like laid back rock and roll, like just unprofessional wild parties. That's what's going to attract all of the industry people to want to sign them, to want to write about them, to want to cover them, to want to come to their gigs. And you can end up just stepping over the line and end up really hindering your progress in your career.
Yeah, we talk about it quite a lot, how a lot of smaller artists are looking at the really successful artists and copying a lot of what they do, whether that's the style of music or whether that's the marketing that they're doing. But with professionalism, a lot of the larger artists, they're not that professional. You're seeing artists kind of trashing hotel rooms. You're seeing artists having these crazy parties and just breaking stuff. And the level they're at, they have the money and they have the attention where the labels are sort of at a point where they're like, there's nothing we can do. We're going to make money off these people. But as a smaller artist, you don't have kind of the chance to do any of that because they don't want to work with those sort of people. No one wants to work with someone that's not professional because it's ruining their name as well.
And it's really down to like the temptations the industry offers.
So many temptations,
And like I always believe in like as soon as you start cashing out on something, that's when you stand still. But you keep progressing when you're able to feed something and just keep reinvesting all of the time. And if you cash out on your career and you get like 3 groupies who want to come and party with you, and that's at the point where you just say yes and you start just going out and having wild parties and things like that, and you're only pulling like 20 people to your gig, for example, like that's it. That is you now. If that's your mentality and that's when you're going to extract the benefits of being a musician, that's where you're going to stay at. And it just comes with the course, just like going to parties, going to gigs, drinking. You'll probably get free booze and just it attracts a different kind of crowd who are going to try and pull you away from your career.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I also think that if you're in this industry to be doing those sort of things, then you're in it for the wrong reasons. Because I mean, that is a side to the industry. There are crazy parties, there are things that you can do at festivals, all stuff like that, which is fun. But if you're in it for that, you're in it for such a small percentage of that industry. And realistically, you should be a musician because you love music, you love performing, you love having that message through your music, which you can have to connect with people. And if you're doing it to get drunk, then you're definitely not in the right area. I mean, I feel like we've spoken about just getting drunk constantly. That's not all we wanted to talk about in this podcast. But I mean, that is one of them.
The other things are just how you handle yourself, how you actually view yourself, and your general demeanor on social media, for example, is a reflection of how professionally you're taking yourself. If you are just constantly DMing people or trying to look cool or try to look bigger than you are, then that also counts as not taking yourself seriously and being quite unprofessional with your career.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there is that social media style of not really caring and being humorous with it. So the Lewis Capaldis, I know we talk about this all the time, but obviously his content style is very much like, I don't care, I'm a loser, I live with my parents. But that is his content style.
And it's calculated.
Yeah, and he's not doing it in a way where he's just forcing content down people's throats and he's acting like he's bigger than he is. The joke is sort of that he's not very big.
Yeah.
And he's still very professional in the way he does it. It doesn't overstep that mark. And I think a lot of the time, using content that is this I don't care attitude just comes across as so unprofessional. It seems as if you don't respect your audience, but also don't really respect yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really big part of being professional as a musician, having that respect for yourself, valuing yourself, your own time, your own skills, because if you're not doing that, no one else is really going to value it.
Yeah, we're big promoters of just adding value in your content. And being unprofessional is the opposite of adding value. You're taking from your audience constantly. And no one's going to walk into the office the next day and say, I saw this really cool artist who like trashed a hotel room, which the same as what The Who did in the 70s and what Oasis did. It's boring and it's been done. Whereas if you're adding value constantly, you will continue to grow your audience rather than just suck the life out of your audience.
I think that can also be done with the copy. I think sometimes the way you write something will show how professional you actually are. So even just using the correct grammar, something really simple like that will show that you spent time on that piece of content. I think it's just, if an artist spends a lot of time on their music, obviously you want to be professional, so why wouldn't you spend as much time on everything else which promotes you as an artist? So really simple things like your artwork and your press shots, all things like that prove how professional you are, because it will show just how much time you put into that process.
Exactly. And almost like how desperate you are for success makes you a little bit unprofessional. So I mean, like, just getting your Spotify link and just spamming it everywhere.
Oh God, I hate that.
DMing everyone, putting your Spotify link in the bio with loads of down emojis saying stream now. And it's like, it's so boring and desperate, and it just shows that you're just desperate for a single stream. Whereas you could just post a nice video of your track, a nice video with your track over the top, and it's 30 seconds long. And if people like it, they will go stream it. You don't have to just put your link everywhere. With the great thing about music is, if you really wanted to listen to that track, you will find it. You'll find it somewhere in the artist's name. So that's all you have to do.
Yeah, I think being desperate for streams is one, definitely. We see loads of bots, but people are basically paid for it, so that every time someone uses a hashtag or maybe even a certain word in their caption, they immediately comment on a post being like, check out my latest post, like my latest post, listen to my latest song. And there's also DMs when you automatically follow someone, it will say, I've got a new song, listen to it. And that is just so unprofessional, because you're just immediately taking from someone. But it's the same with media and sort of industry contacts. There are far too many artists just tweeting people saying, how do I email you? How do I submit to you? How do I do this? If you wanted it enough, you would have researched that rather than bombarding these people, especially on their personal social media. People have private Facebook accounts for a reason. They don't want it to be open. They don't want to be messaged through it. So that's definitely not the most professional thing.
Try to do it in a cool way. We've seen like this relaxed, like almost unprofessional, the topic of this podcast.
All right, mate, listen to my new track.
Like that's unique.
Yeah.
It's not unique at all.
The amount of people that tweet Dexter, who's the indie Spotify editor at Spotify. They will just tweet him being like, all right, mate, this is my new song, so your jam, you'll love it. The amount of times that guy gets tweeted, he does not have the time to just listen to that track from a tweet.
If you're a curator, going to the tweets is not where you're going to take submissions at all.
Also, for someone that's such a large industry name, whether that's a Spotify editor, whether that's an editor of a really large music blog, they get so many submissions that if someone tries to skip that queue, they're probably going to put you right to the back of that queue, even if you've emailed them earlier that day, because they're thinking, this person's not that professional, this person hasn't really taken the time to find my email address and submit to me properly. Because a lot of editors, a lot of Spotify curators, all of those sort of people will have a way that they want to be emailed. And we've done videos on kind of the radio producers, the online editors, which we'll link below on this video. But people have a way that they want to be emailed, and if you sort of just try and skip that, it seems so unprofessional.
And like the definition of professional, I've only just realized this, is like how you value your time. If you are constantly just tweeting someone and just spamming, it means that your time's not really worth it. Like you're just spamming someone and saying, please, I hope that someone clicks this link and listens to my track. This is all I've got to do. Or after a show, you go and get pissed with the like 5 people who showed up, or your friends or whatever, and you just get drunk and you say, that's what you're saying your time is worth. If you have a show, then you network, you mingle, you say hi to everyone who came, and you go. Like you can party after your career's over. That's a great time to party. Or if you've really made it, that's when you get the rewards. But just cashing in too early and saying that my time is now kind of worth this one drunken night, then people will respect you less.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good point you made earlier before the podcast about how you network with people, and when you do meet an influential person, how you act around them.
Yeah, no, we were speaking about this before the podcast because we're quite passionate about this topic as a whole, because there are so many artists that have fantastic music and then they just do something and we're like, come on. And we're seeing a lot of people, they're seeing it as partying with an industry professional, with someone they want to basically network with. Doesn't count as networking with that person, because if you think about the last night out you went on and you met someone randomly, you're probably not friends with them now.
Yeah.
You're probably not emailing them right now, are you? I think networking with someone is a completely different situation to partying with them. You can party with all your friends, you can party with who you want, but people that you want to build professional relationships with, you're not going to drink with, you're not going to do drugs with, it's just not going to happen. So this idea of going to industry after parties, so you might go to a gig and then afterwards be invited to an after party which you're really excited about. There are influential people there. The worst thing you can possibly do is get so drunk with them. If you're the one that's really professional in the way you speak, you're the one that's actually having a genuine conversation, they're going to remember you rather than you're the one that bought them the Jaeger bomb.
Yeah, exactly. The guy who leaves early his time is worth a lot more than the person who can like bang 7 gram rocks of coke and like just the person who just supplies it all and parties, and that's all you become in their eyes. They had a good time because these influential people, they are surrounded by people just like you trying to get to know them. They know the score and they just end up using you. But if you show that you've got something of value and then you take it away from them and then you meet them another time in a better environment, then they're going to respect you a lot more. You're not going to be able to get a number or a contact from just one ridiculous night out.
Yeah, and it also goes back to that comment you made earlier of valuing your own time. If you don't value your time, then you're going to be getting pissed with them after a gig. But if you value your time and you say to them, I'm really sorry, I got to be in the studio in the morning, they're going to be like, whoa, this guy's really serious about what he does. There are plenty of artists that are really successful today and they still won't go out getting really, really drunk because they want to focus on bettering their career and bettering their music. And I think that's key for anyone that wants to be actually succeeding in this industry.
Yeah, and I think if you've got that mentality, you end up like cutting corners. You just want to get success too quickly, and that kind of desperation just shows when you are networking and meeting influential people. You want it too badly. You've kind of almost got to like seduce them by not wanting it, if that makes sense. And in that kind of cutting corners, you just try to get 1 million streams as quickly as possible by buying them, so you feel better about your ego, so you can walk up to them and say you've got 1 million streams. I get people DMing me all the time saying, yeah, I've got like 30,000 daily listeners, and I go onto their Spotify about section and it's coming from just fake playlists, and they paid for that just to brag to me that they've got this number of listeners, when anyone who is worth it, this is actually a Gary Vee quote, but like anyone who is worth your time can smell the bullshit. So he likened this to kind of faking your numbers or hustling and getting pictures with Lamborghinis and trying to pretend to be this kind of big shot CEO, but you only fool the fakers themselves or kind of the people who aren't worth your time. However, if you do go about things professionally, then the people who are at the top can recognize what professional people can handle themselves, and then they will gravitate towards you.
Yeah, you're also associating yourself with the wrong people if you do that. So if you are buying those followers, buying those likes, even if you're extremely professional but you've done that, as soon as you show that to an industry person, you're immediately going to be seen as unprofessional. I think the people you associate yourself with, especially when meeting some influential people, will show just how professional you are, because it can actually hinder your career a little bit if you're surrounding yourself with all of the artists that we've been explaining, because it makes you look like you're one of them. So I think kind of choosing your friends and your kind of your immediate group carefully is quite important.
I was actually on tour with an artist years ago, and this was like 6 years ago, and we were an emerging artist, and we were playing a big stage, and there was kind of a party afterwards. So it was on like a campsite. We all went back to the chalets, and Lethal Bizzle was in one room, and then I think it was Devlin in the next room. So it was all in a row. And the lighting guys and the emerging artists all went into one room and partied. Lethal Bizzle and Devlin were both in bed by 9 p.m. And they were in bed by 9 p.m. Their van was outside ready to go, and people were partying till like 6 a.m. and they heard them leave. They got up at 6 a.m. to go to the either, I don't know where they were going, probably the next spot on their tour, or they were going back to the studio or back to London, and they didn't party. They weren't attracted to go and kind of go and schmooze and like be who they wanted to be. Like they literally just knew how that this is their one point in their career to push it as far as they can, and this is their one opportunity, and they got their best night's sleep, woke up in the morning just like in their regular routine. We watched them get on the bus and they went without any parties, without any groupies, just concentrating on their career. And we always find when we work with successful people, whether it's musicians, whether it's influencers, they are so professional in the way that they work that it actually shows. Especially there's people on the outside where we think that guy's not going to be very professional, and then lo and behold there is something behind it where we're like, that's why he's successful.
No, I completely agree. I think we covered basically everything. I feel like it may have seemed a little bit negative, but I hope this was useful for you guys. And if you found it useful at all, make sure to hit that like button if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're listening as a podcast, make sure to give it a review. I think we've only got one of those so far, so that would be great. And we'll see you in the next one.